everybody. Welcome to a special Wednesday edition of UGASports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dayne Young and Jim Donnan. Coach Donnan is the former Georgia Bulldogs head coach and the number one reason everybody's tuning in on this Wednesday afternoon. We appreciate you joining us on a different date and time. We did not want to go up against Kirby Smart's press conference yesterday on Tuesday. And it was a very good press conference. If you have a chance, if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook or something like that, go watch the entire thing. It's one of the more informative press conferences that Kirby Smart has given. He was asked a lot of questions about specific players, and he had a lot to say, and it was very informative. He did start his press conference off with the news of the weekend. The news we broke on Sunday was that Florida transfer running back Trevor Etienne was arrested for a DUI, less safe DUI. There was also three other misdemeanors. All four were misdemeanors, but when you saw the police report, it wasn't that good. And Kirby Smart came out and said, look, right off the bat, he knew he was going to get the question, but he wanted to address it. I thought it was a good, I don't say PR stunt, but it was a good PR approach to say, hey, here's what we know. Here's what happened. Here's what we're going to do about it. And that's what everybody wanted to know. People want to know, what's going on. And I thought that, Coach, I'll get your take on this. He came out and was very serious about the charges and what was going on. And he mentioned the punishments that would go on that they do in-house. And there is the school policy. But he also said, look, this kid is a good kid. We've spoken to a lot of people about him. We know his family. He's embarrassed. He's, feels awful about this. He knows he made a mistake. And to this point, we have not heard anything like that about Trevor Etienne. Now, the week prior, Kirby Smart was calling him a leader on the team. And this is a guy who hasn't been here that long. So he seemed to be fitting in. All his fellow teammates were raving about Trevor. And then you had just a very shocking arrest this past weekend. So kind of get your thoughts on that, because I thought Kirby handled it well, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle it going forward.
Yeah, if you look back at the track record of Kirby here as the head coach, it's been very good on discipline. But at the same time, everybody wants to know exactly what it is, and it's nobody's business but within the program. We do have structural concepts with the among the athletic department that address every kind of issue that happens as far as discipline, that the football team is under the same criteria. So he'll have to meet those criteria. But I can just tell you right now, they're very stringent physical condition, a lot of public things that they try to get these kids to go out and do, public service, things like that, just to understand you made a mistake, and a really bad mistake, because you're trying to establish yourself here, and that's not part of your background. But and as usual, with everything that happened last year, that's the first thing that comes up. Everybody's going to rehash what happened, and they should. I mean, it's just it's an issue here. But I thought Kirby brought up a good point about NIL. Kids have the ability to get better cars than they used to, and they're faster. And if you make mistakes like he did, he's going to pay for it, and the team pays for it too, because I don't know how it's going to affect. You got to miss 10% of the games for a DUI, but I don't know exactly what the charges are going to be. But from my standpoint, as a fan, as a supporter, you worry about who's not going to play, but at the same time, you can't let guys play that don't go by the rules either. So it's just that's the only way to have a disciplined football team, and we are a disciplined team. A lot of the things we do are significant when you watch our teams play, as far as mental errors, penalties, things like that. But when you have over 125 players on your team, you're going to have guys make mistakes. I mean, just like among the Athens community, it's pretty rampant, out here with the drinking that goes on. And I could go on and try to lecture everybody. But the bottom line is, I feel very good that Kirby has been consistent and disciplined here. Regardless of what the issue has been, he's been very consistent, and he'll continue to be.
he was asked a lot of questions. The players were too. We got to speak to Kirby Smart yesterday and 4 other players. There was a consistent story or questioning line, if you will, line of questioning. Sorry, I can't speak today. About is it a culture thing? What are they doing to prevent it? And one of the players said, look, we had Josh Brooks come here and speak to us. They've had the police come in here and speak to us. Kirby Smart stood up in front of us and talked to us. It's us. It's not them. It's not anything they're doing. And people can point to, well, you've had this many arrests over this many months. And my question, when people say, can you defend that? Is it institutional? Does Kirby need to do something? I'm like, I know a lot of these players. And as you say, Coach, Kirby is consistent with the punishment. He doesn't do the punishment in front of the whole town. You're not putting the stops. When you're running the stadium steps, he doesn't bring a camera crew out there to show everybody. When they say internal, it's internal. But I do know what happens. So people go, well, if he was punishing them hard, then it would stop. No, because I speed. I know I do. I don't think I'm going to get caught. And I'm not trying to justify DUI. I'm just saying everybody makes their own individual decision no matter what they do. And to your point, what Kirby said yesterday about the cars, he also said we have more guys with cars than we've ever had before, thanks to NIL. And they're faster. I drove a beater. I couldn't have sped when I was a college student because the car wouldn't get over 45 miles an hour. But to your point, you're around the program a lot more. I think you attested to it. The punishment is there. It's just some kids continue to make the same stupid decisions.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But you talk about peer pressure on you. There's nothing worse than to be a really good player and the team be out there practicing and you're running around the field.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody else is out there. And whoever is watching practice, that among the people that come to practice or see it too. And it just sends an example of, look, you're not good enough. You haven't made the sacrifices these other guys have. You made it. You put our team in a tough situation, and you don't deserve to be out here. And that's the way he does it, among other things that you mentioned. But I like that too. I know when I was at North Carolina, Dean Smith, one thing he would do was when a guy would do something wrong, he would put the guy up in the stands, and then the rest of the players would have to run.
Oh,
because he made a mistake. You talk about peer pressure. When they go in the showers after that, and his ass chewed. But I mean, you can laugh a lot, but there's different ways to do it. We used to do things on Friday and Saturday nights at 11 o'clock, take them down to the stadium and do things. And after they finish that, they can't go out at night. They don't feel good. They feel like throwing up. And it's one of the best things I ever did for the deterrent. But just put them on the ground, and he had to roll from one end zone to the other. Just roll. If you think that doesn't make you dizzy.
Well, I've rolled. It's god awful.
And you've got your whole weekend pretty much destroyed because you don't feel very good after that. So it's one of the best things I ever did.
Well, we did have a couple questions from UGASports.com about this, and specifically, Coach, about how you would handle these kinds of situations. DogFan215's question: can Coach explain how he would handle kids who did get in trouble? Do you give out different punishments based on the offense? Are they all handled the same? Is there a time to make an example out of someone if there is a perpetual problem?
Yeah, I think every situation's different. Certainly, you put them in the categories of what happened as, drinking or whatever it might be, missing class, getting parking tickets, whatever, there's different things that we used to deal with. Back in the old days, the two things that were the most prevalent were parking tickets and telephone charges because, you didn't have cell phones. So some of these guys didn't realize it was long distance to Atlanta. And, you get big bills on there and these guys aren't paying them. But certainly you got to be consistent in your discipline because and treat the kids fairly. I mean, everybody, you can't have treat guy one way and then the other. But when I had to make a decision that was really big about how it was going to affect the team, I always talked to the team about it while I was doing it, just to let them know that in this case, I didn't do what I did on the other, but this is the reason why. For instance, we had a bowl game one time, and a couple guys were caught downtown in a group of people, but they just happened to be too slow to run away. They weren't doing anything. And I told them, I said, I'm not going to punish these guys because they were just standing out there. But, and then there's other guys that were in a bar fight, and you got to do something about that. So I'm just saying you got to keep everybody consistent. And your team likes the fact that you talk about that. And that's one of the things I feel very strongly about Kirby. He really articulates the message to his team about what's expected of them. And we know last year we had a rash of those car incidents, and one just terrible one that just will live with us forever here on the loss of that young man. But I think we've covered this, and the elephant in the room, and we're not going to talk about it much more. Let it happen, and let's talk about all the positive, because there's a lot of good things happening around here, and people don't want to tune in at 12 o'clock and have their lunch feel like they got to throw up after they listen to this.
Hey, well, they got the nice carryover from last night. If I know a lot of folks were disappointed that Georgia didn't make it into the NCAA tournament, let's give a shout out to the basketball Bulldogs for making it to the semifinals of the NIT. I mean, we won the last 4 teams left. It's in Indianapolis, Coach. You want to go watch some basketball and maybe pick up some St. Elmo's?
Yeah, that'd be good for that. I'm proud of those kids, and we talked about on last week's show, just to keep them playing and have this is something that's going to have a tremendous impact on building on the future for here. The fact that you see some of the potential, and a lot of these guys are young. Three of the freshmen coming in there and making really big impact. So I thought it was a good move by us playing in it, and who knows what's going to happen there. I mean, it's down to 4 teams, and let's keep on trucking.
Yeah. We'll talk some more positive stuff. We were able to speak to some of the coaches who attended the coaches clinic last weekend, and they went to a lot of them arrived early and went to that Thursday practice. A lot of them were at the Saturday practice. I know Coach always hates it when we tell folks what we heard about at practice, and we won't get into too many details, but I thought one of the top things that popped out was a lot of those coaches who were there the last year said that they really liked what they saw in Gunnar Stockton. They said, Carson Beck looks like the guy who set the single season completion record at Georgia. He looks great. But they said the same thing last year, but they said, hey, Gunnar Stockton looks good. And the secondary looks good. And I'm like, oh, okay. So being a quarterback's coach and a former quarterback yourself, I figure you'd be excited to hear that Gunnar Stockton's kind of progressing, if you will.
Yeah, when you think about Gunnar's background, playing for his father in high school, and really a good all-around athlete on top of just being a quarterback, he's very good, knowledgeable guy, and he's got a lot of faith in Mike Bobo. Their families have been known each other for a long time, and they have a good relationship, and Mike knows how to coach him. And I just saw tremendous growth last year. The first year he had, running the scout team, you don't really get to see much except what they do on cards, but really sharing the role with Vandergriff, he did a good job, and he showed a lot of gumption, I thought, staying here when, knowing that Carson's coming back, but he feels like, I'm sure that he could get plenty of reps. And when we talk about these reps, I just think I need to qualify this a little bit. Somebody at Chick-fil-A the other day was asking me, Coach, I know what reps mean, but why is it so big to do these reps? And what I'm saying is, it's not like they're going off some Willie off the pickle boat players out there. They're going against, when he's out there with the number 2s or going against number 1s, he's going against NFL players for the most part every day out there. And so he's getting challenged, reading coverages, And we've talked about it before. They don't poo-poo it out there and just line up in one coverage or don't blitz you and let you get your confidence. They throw the kitchen sink at you. And he wants to see Kirby, Bobo. They want to see how you react to that. And this guy has good mental knowledge, physical knowledge, and a above average arm and uncanny accuracy. I mean, that's what I always like in the guy. I mean, you can throw the ball hard and do all that, but he's got really good accuracy. And it makes me feel comfortable that we've got more than an adequate backup going into next year. You saw what he could do against Florida State there, the way he went in and looked in the second half. So those coaches, there's a reason they're coaches. They recognize it. And I think Kirby or somebody said he was like 23 out of 27 the other day on Saturday. I mean, just that's hard to do against in a parking lot at Walmart.
The only kind of bad news we heard about quarterbacks was that Ryan Puglisi, the true freshman, he's a little banged up. We saw him practice. He was wearing a knee brace, and I think he's been a little bit limited there. I've got high hopes for him as well, but I hate the fact that he gets here and he has a knee. I thought you weren't allowed to hit those guys.
Hey, well, you're not. But
I'm assuming he wasn't hit. He might have just stepped in it wrong, but that's just he's kind of a little banged up there. So I hate that for him.
But, you know, I think sometimes when a guy gets an injury, there's a real fine line between being really injured and being, you know, offset a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I don't know, and I wouldn't share it if I did, the extent of it, but the fact that he was out there and continued to practice has got to show that they didn't feel like there was any chance that he was going to hurt himself anymore. But anybody that's had an injury to the lower extremity, sometimes when you haven't been putting the weight on it or doing anything to stress it and you try to do something that you normally would, it doesn't react like that, and you lose your balance or what. But I hope he's going to be okay. You talk about a guy that's got velocity now. I mean, I always like, and my hearing isn't as good as it used to be, but I like to hear that ball hum. And when that ball goes out of his hand, a lot like Beck, you can hear it humming. I mean, he's got some RPMs on that baby.
Well, one of the guys he's throwing to that we heard a lot of, again, now these are the coaches who go to practice or, once a year. They get it, or well, they go twice, but they're invited to that once a year coaches clinic. And of course, the police, there were a lot of policemen there yesterday. They have law enforcement day, and once a year they bring in the policemen. Good timing, I guess. So they have all those guys kind of standing around the field watching. But they all did the same thing I did, Coach. When we went to that first practice that Kirby let us into, I came out of there going, who the hell's Colby Young? I mean, we knew who he was, but when you see a body that size, and you told us last week, he'd been, and Kirby also confirmed that he's been banged up a little bit. But that guy looks good. So what are you hearing about wide receivers, Colby Young? Because I'm just thinking him on one side, Dylan Bell on the other.
Yeah, I'm just telling you right now, I feel good about I really feel good about Dylan Bell. Lovett, Ra Thomas, Arian Smith. I mean, Arian Smith's got a little kick in his giddy up out there. He's really related to Coach Coley. I know some people went to the Athens Touchdown Club Monday night, and Kirby made a remark about that Arian Smith was among the best gunners on the punt team that he's ever been around. And that's a tremendous honor for Coach Smart to say that. But I just feel like he's made enough big plays that if he ever gets it where his consistency level is what it needs to be, he can be a dangerous guy, and he's got some NFL potential with his speed. I mean, he's in the 1 percentile speed-wise in the whole country. And then I like the big body of Young coming in, who's had ACC experience catching touchdowns in big games for Miami, and certainly this young kid White from up at Cartersville.
Oh yeah, it's
has that kind of jump around type speed, And Evans, number 17, returning punts we know about, but he's really good in the slot, catching those bubble screens and making you miss, a lot like Muse was last year. So we've got a good situation there. And then you had Delp and Lucky. I think Lucky's really doing well. Finally got his foot going. And then you add Riddell and Heinrich in here at tight end, and then we got the kid coming in from Stanford. So we got plenty of people there at skill positions, and our old line now. I talked to Roddy a little bit a couple of days ago, and I was talking about Ernest Green and Mikel Morris lined up side by side. Looked like two road graders there, and as good as our line has been the last couple of years, and the guys are getting drafted like Jones and Mims and all, Ernest Green's right up there where those guys' talent was. I know Dell McGee told me, and he's really good evaluator. And, of course, Stacy is a tremendous teacher, and I don't really talk to him about things like I did with Dell, but he thought Ernest Green was among the better linemen he's seen at Georgia.
Yeah, we got to talk. We got to speak to both of them yesterday. I want to talk about them when we come back from a quick commercial break. Before we hit that commercial, a quick story about Arian Smith. So yesterday, Julian Humphreys is being asked about, a 4x100 team. Who are the four fastest players on the team? And he was talking about how, he was listed as a 10.5, but he's technically run a 10.2, and it's him and Ja'Cory Thomas, and Daniel Harris. They're talking about that would be their 4x100 team. And so someone brought up, what about Arian Smith? And again, Julian is raving about how fast everybody is on that defense. And then they bring up Arian Smith. He goes, oh, no, he's a 10 flat guy. And I'm like, oh, that's right. People forget when he ran track, he actually qualified for the 100 meters finals, 10.16. So when you say he's one of the 1%ers, Coach, he was one of the 1%ers in football, like you said. He's also one of the 1%ers in the 100 meters at NCAA level track, D1. So he was flying. It was just funny. Like, no, we're not even going to talk about, Arian Smith. That's unfair. That's like putting Matthew Bowling in the conversation. We're going to talk about real guys. So,
when they had that race that time with Bowling, didn't they put Arian out there? Who all was out there?
I think they had like Richard LeCount out there. They were going to put Arian. Arian would have made it too hard. So I don't know if they let him play or not, but yeah, Matt Bowling.
He's really physical too. And
yes.
And the one thing that I would say, what's the day? March 27th.
Yep.
Nobody listening to this show realizes how good Ra and Dylan Bell are. I mean, I've been watching receivers since a long time. These two guys have got that it factor. You used to listen to Coach Bowden, he said, "Dadgummit, you got that it factor." I'm just telling you, both of these guys have got the it factor.
Well, there you go.
And we haven't seen Ra at his full because he got hurt, and then he was starting to roll there in the middle of the year. And but he's coming back. But I'm just telling you, he's got a good name too. I mean, Ra.
Yeah. And we'll talk about Dom Lovett too. But anyway, we got to talk about that left side of the offensive line. But first, I want to mention our friends over at Athens Ford. Right now, you can get $5,000 off any of the 2023 Ford Broncos, all models. I think that's a pretty good deal. You can just go over there and say, look, whatever the MSRP is, $5,000 right off the top. That's a good start. If you want something smaller, the Ford Edge, $7,000 off. You're like, well, I want to finance it pretty cheaply. You can choose, instead of the $7,000 off, you can get 0% APR financing for 60 months for qualified buyers. 0% financing. That's pretty good. 2023 Ford F-150 XLT, the Lariat, up to $12,000 off MSRP or 1.9% for 6 years. Can't beat that. And then the Ford Lightning, the one that gives you the whip flash because it takes off so fast. If you want an EV, if you want the Ford F-150 Lightning, get up to $20,000 off MSRP on that one. So they got some pretty good deals there out at Athens Ford. Check it out on their new vehicles. And, of course, all of them come with a lifetime powertrain warranty. Wow. you missed double points Tuesday, but now we're looking at the rest of the week. Swing by your local UGASports. There's going to be fantastic basketball all weekend long. The NCAA tournaments here. We had a great weekend this past weekend. The Dogs are still playing. Hell, the baseball team's still playing. Shout out to the baseball Dogs sweeping number 8 Alabama last weekend. So if you're watching Georgia baseball, basketball, you're reading the Dog Vent and you want great pizza, try our friends at Your Pie. I still had a few people who said, hey, I hear you talk about Your Pie all the time. I've never tried it. Just walk in. If you've been to a Subway, then you'll know how to do this. You walk in, you tell them what crust you want, what sauce, what cheese, what toppings you want. By the time you sit down with your drink, your pizza's ready. And it's phenomenal pizza. And I think if you try it once, you will be hooked. So give Your Pie a chance when you're looking for a good pizza.
You know, one good thing about Your Pie that I like, you know, if you're getting ready to get a pizza and you've been eating pizza your whole life and you know what you like, you're not going to really branch out and take anything except the good old standard. But you go through that line, you see all that stuff, and, you know, once in a while you add something you would have never thought, and it's really pretty good. And sometimes it's not very good. But
I watched my anchovies for the first time.
The whole point is I like that buffet type deal where you can just put anything on you want, and really good. You know, when I was up at Marshall, Geno's had this pizza place, and they had guy asked me if I wanted banana peppers on my pizza. I said, good Lord, I wouldn't do that. I'm from North Carolina, not West Virginia. And so he said, try it. So I tried it. I liked it. That was pretty good, but I didn't order it anymore, but it was okay for that one time.
One of the most impressive people that we spoke to yesterday was Mikel Morris. Now, Ernest Green stood up there, and he did a great job, but Mikel Morris is a mountain of a man. He looks solid. He exudes. You know what? We had Yancey as a sponsor last year for the Watch Along show, and they have those giant Caterpillar, as you say, road graders. He looked like a literal dump truck or one of those just haulers. He is a massive, square human being, and he talks, got that deep voice. And Kirby was asked about it beforehand, and Kirby's like, yeah. They know when he's coming around the edge, when he pulls, he's coming with bad intentions. And, you know, then we asked Mikel Morris about that. He goes, well, it's one of my favorite things, running into people, running over people. It's just a mentality. And Coach, you'll love this as an old football guy. He says, their mouthpiece had better be in because mine's in and I'm coming for you. I couldn't think of a scarier thing in the world to see Mikel Morris on a pull.
Yeah, here's the thing about him, too. He's already graduated. I mean, he's very intelligent. The guy's already graduated and just had really phenomenal academic success here. But the thing that I always look for from the way the players feel about you or respect you and is when you have some drills and you're in line and you start seeing these players shuffle around and tying their shoes or moving to the back. When they see Mikel, the next guy, they're getting close to him, you see a lot of guys changing their position in line because they don't want to go up against the guy. I mean, he's just a human wrecking ball coming off with great explosion and good feet and just a premier. I mean, if you want to just talk about what a guard looks like, he's what a guard should look like in college football.
So you take him, you put Ernest Green beside him, and Ernest he did a very good job meeting with the press for the first time. Mentioned how I asked him, did you ever have like a moment where you figured, yeah, I could do this? You know, I can be a starting left tackle as a redshirt freshman in the SEC, which Kirby Smart says is the hardest position to play as a freshman or heck, play at all is left tackle. And he did it as a redshirt freshman. And Ernest was like, I never really doubted it. I'm like, oh, okay. He said, well, because I did it. I'm like, got you. So, Coach, we spoke last week about how Jared Wilson, the incoming starting center at Georgia, is an athletic freak. And again, they also mentioned it in the presser yesterday, how fast he is. They're like, this guy can fly. And I'm thinking, give me, from a coaching standpoint, if you know your left tackle is an absolute people mover, your left guard is a NFL 10, 12-year guy. and you got the fastest center probably in the SEC who can climb to that second level. Good running backs, smart quarterback. What do you call him? What are you doing on that left side?
Yeah, I mean, you can do a lot of different things. And of course, we got Fairchild in there that is just very physical and one of the strongest guys in the program. So that's what the fight is about, who can be on the field the most between he and Morris. But certainly, you got a plethora of things you can do as far as a lot of times the center can't pull because he's not quick enough to get to the next level. What I mean, pulling around like a G scheme where the guard pulls. Right. But if they've got a very dominant player that you need to secure the line of scrimmage, a lot of times that guard can do that and the center can pull. You saw that with some of our linemen over the years, Andrews and the kid that plays for the Titans.
Ben Jones.
So I think it's just it's really and we had the same thing with Van Pran. He was really good interior type puller, but maybe not using on the perimeter quite as much, although he had an unbelievable block in that game against Florida State, pulling out on the perimeter. But and then, of course, the veteran side is really good with Truss and over there on that side with Truss and Ratledge, two guys that decided to come back. So that just makes it so much better for these younger guys. And the example I'll give you is Green was able to really learn what to do playing behind Jones, who's now starting for the Steelers. And now guys like we got Calhoun and Freeling coming up, or they're going to get that same kind of maturation going behind Green and Truss and them. So, and be ready to step in there. So I think that's the way Searles and Kirby work it. So it's good.
I thought you mentioned Ben Jones. Caught a quick clip of his show. He was talking to Aaron Murray, and I think he pretty much said this could be Georgia's best offensive line, even better than last year. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good on paper, but
it does look good on paper. It looks great on paper.
You're a lot better offensive line when you got a quarterback that can make the right calls to where you're not getting overloads and having to try to block schemes that just aren't there for you because of the number of people, or rushes where the quarterback can get rid of the ball and make you look bad because you're out on an island, and then backs that can make cuts that you don't have to knock everybody down to make yards. So, but I do think that this line will be the kind that keeps you from other team getting penetration and being in your backfield where the backs have to start downhill, 3 or 4 yards deeper than they would if they break the first level. So, and then, Delp and Lucky and these guys are blockers too. And I think the development of Dominic Lovick as a blocker probably didn't have to do much of that at Missouri. He's had to do that here. And we know what Bell's toughness is like, watching him be a running back some last year. And then you had the size of Young out there on the perimeter. I mean, he looks like a big tight end out there, but he's got very fluid and they can run. So you just got to curb your enthusiasm. I don't want to say that. That's a show, but you just got to be careful about going too crazy about it. But it looks good on paper for sure. It's good. Look on paper, the defense looks even better athletically. I mean, good Lord, the athletes over there just scare me.
Yeah, I was going to flip though. To your point, when I start looking at the team, I'm like, okay, great offensive line. Oh, yeah, they can do their stuff. I mean, you got 3 really good guards, you got 2 good tackles. Okay, yeah, I like that. Untested center, but everyone's raving about him. You got one of the best quarterbacks in the nation coming back. Ton of receivers. You don't have a Brock Bowers. You don't have a Ladd McConkey, but you replace him with some really good guys. So what does Georgia have on defense? And talking to a bunch of the coaches that went, they were coming back and they were raving about Georgia's cornerbacks. And we did get to speak to Julian Humphrey yesterday, and we spoke to Ja'Cory Thomas as well. The position battles for Georgia's cornerbacks seem to be going really well. I mean,
yeah, I think the thing that worries me right off the bat is there's 3 or 4 guys that are potential starters. I just hope they'll all hang in there and stay here. It's hard to not be playing, but you noticed that at the end of the year they played more than 2 corners, and I think that was smart. Give those guys some battle-tested experience. You play a lot of receivers, and you play a lot of running backs, and it's just you never see too much substituting in the secondary. But you add, we know what Everett can do. We know what Humphrey can do. We've got Harris, who looks the part, wiry guy, 6'2", and then you add this Ellis Robinson, who #1 corner in the country. Going to be hard to keep him off the field the way he can cover. He can smother you, and I saw that during the practices for the bowl. He really just was one of those guys that comes in there exact opposite of what I'm talking about. Guys in line looking to find out who you can not have to go against. He's going to jump up there and be first in line and go against whoever you put up there, because he's that kind of player. And then KJ Bolden back there at safety, and then this Cole kid at linebacker. But the guy that just surprises me the way he can run is that, and I asked for the exact from our man Adonye. Is that right? Is that the way you pronounce his last name?
Joseph Jonah Ajanye.
Yeah, and he's from Texas. He's a freshman, and the guy's gone 18 miles an hour so far on the GPS. And what's his size now?
JJ, that kid is 6'4", 275.
Jeez, come on. That's smoking it now, and among the better line speeds we've seen. I don't know what that first round guy did from the Jaguars, but he's not far from that. And you always like it when a guy comes in as a freshman and you're not having to talk about losing weight and doing all that stuff, and the guy's running like that. So impressive.
He can definitely play. You mentioned the transfer portal. Kirby also mentioned something about it. He said that, we were asking about some of the younger guys. He's like, when he was talking about, I think like Aguero and some others, and he mentioned it more than once. He said, if these guys stay here, and
Right.
You've never heard him use that qualifier before. And we know that when the portal,
you can't blame him.
No, yeah, I get it. And he said, so it's funny to hear how coaches are now working that into their responses. Like, well, this person who's on second and third team has a great future. We like this guy's length. We like this guy's speed. We like this guy's analysis on the field, making decisions and attacking the right, doing his assignments. If they stay here, here's what we project. And that's kind of how Kirby's starting to massage his messages, because it is an actual thing, which made me flip my question to him. I'm like, how much tampering is going on? I wanted a rough estimate. And he was very funny. So, look, I don't have the phones tapped. I'm not the feds. But he made this revelation, Coach. He said, I'll tell you this, though. When the kids come see me, they have a plan.
Right. Let me just tell you now, anybody's in la-la land if they don't think these kids are getting tampered with. Everybody now, they got their own agents. They got their different people looking out for and telling them, hey, you can go here and make this and do all that. And like we said, you got two times a year, you got free agency right at the end of December with the portal, and now at the end of the spring, the same thing. But I like the way that our team works in practice, which we've always done, but by going the 2 spot, and instead of having only 2 teams out there, you actually have 4 teams out there, offense, defense, going against each other at different ends of the field. Kids get more reps and they get to see, how they stack up. And instead of, I just can't look at all these guys. You better look at all of them, because you don't want to see them in another uniform next year, because you couldn't. So, and they see the value too of sticking around here when they see what Kamari did, the way he stuck here and what he was able to do. And regardless of who it might be, but the idea is, even a guy like Washington, Darnell Washington was talking about leaving at one time. You
Yeah.
saw what happened with him hanging in here and being in the system. And I think this is just not a homer show here, but we're trying to tell you that everything's got a purpose, and the ability to look into the future, whatever you're doing, whatever role you are as a leader, that's something you got to do, because you got to project. Like I told Dell McGee, he's going over there and he doesn't know his team. He's learning, but you got to be able to see where we are and how we're going to get there and what we're going to do to get where we got to get. But at the same time, the players you got are the ones you got. So you got to work with that. So, and he knows that too. But I always try to keep our guys consistent and say, look, maybe this guy isn't what we need right now, but I can see in a couple of years, I've seen guys like him come along or other ones. I say, look, you beating the dead horse here, like trying to get this guy to go, because there's an NC, no chance that this guy. I mean, it's pretty easy to pick those guys out.
I would have been one of those to say, and Chris, please forgive me, but year 3 for Chris Smith, I'd have been like, he's maxed out, and then he goes on to have one of the best senior years. William Poole, a lot of guys who everyone kind of
Chris Smith
moved on. Now,
is he playing pro?
I don't know if he is or not.
Last I saw was practice squad, but I'll check it out.
Again, just
a good solid player. And William Poole, man, some of the plays he made in the playoffs were unreal.
Exactly. So it's really easy to kind of write a guy off, but some of them stick around.
Robert Bill's a poster child.
Oh, yeah. Oh, perfect. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good one. Let me talk real quick about our friends over at Academia Brewing Company. It's a great place if you want to try new beers. They always have new beers going on. And now that it's spring, they're doing a lot more stuff outside. So if you want to try a new beer in a great setting with with something to do instead of, there's nothing wrong with just sitting and drinking beer. It's one of my favorite pastimes. But if you want to go out there on April 6th on Saturday, they're going to have Cars and Coffee. It's a big car show. So some fantastic cars will be out there. Come join them for a good time, amazing cars, and fantastic food. If you're like, well, I don't drink a whole lot, or so-and-so who is going with me, they don't drink, or, they're not big into beers, just go to the restaurant. I'm telling you, folks, if it was just a regular restaurant that did not have great beer, I'd still tell you to go there. The fact that you can go out there and get fantastic beer, I'd go, hey, look, just go to the brewery. There's a lot of great breweries in Athens. Go to those places. To get both, plus a show, entertainment, can't beat that. So hit our friends up at Academia Brewing Company when you get the chance. You'll be glad that you did. Also, if you're speaking of a great company, you want to actually have your own, and you want to do something that's you want to be the boss. You want to run the show. Think about getting a franchise. Now, that's easy to say, and I'm sure you can go Google, franchise opportunities. It's a bad idea to do it that way. Reach out to myperfectfranchise.net. Reach out to Andy Ludecki. He will walk you through it. It's free to you. He will give you as much information as you can stand, and he will guide you through the process, and he won't charge you a dime. Now, how does he make money? Is he doing it out of the goodness of his heart? No, he's got to get paid. He can't just give away hours and hours and hours of development time for nothing. But the franchise companies do that. Now, of course, people think, well, he's just going to put them into a franchise that makes him the most money. If it doesn't work, he doesn't get paid. So he's going to do the right company for you, for your the amount of money you want to put into it, the amount of time you want to put into it, what your goals are. So reach out to Andy Ludecki, and he will take great care of you. I promise you. We've had testimonials from people who have worked with him before, and they're happy.
Christopher Smith is on the Raiders roster, recorded 1 tackle last year.
Good.
So there we go. Let's get at some questions from UGASports.com, beginning with Bulldog Ben. Among those wide receiver transfers, which one makes the biggest impact at Georgia this year?
Yeah, it's going to be Young. He's a little bit more. I think he's ready to go. I hadn't seen enough of Michael Jackson and of course Humphrey. I haven't watched any practice this spring, so anything I tell you is Radi's been out. You guys have been out there, but I like I like Young on tape. I think I'd go with Young.
This question comes after the weekend decommitment. Bulldog Ice, can Coach explain why it seems like top recruits from Georgia are willing to leave the state so fast, but that doesn't seem to happen as much in Alabama or Louisiana? This was happening before NIL, and now it's continuing. In other words, how can a kid from rural Georgia choose to go out west and ignore Kirby Smart's development with defensive players and success in the NFL draft?
We're talking cash. I mean, that's it. We're also talking population. There, 4 or 5 times bigger state, population in both of these. But I think too, though, that a guy from rural Georgia like this young man probably went out there and he got, stars in his eyes out there in Hollywood and over the weekend. But don't count Georgia out. I think Roddy brought up about Bolden. You never know, but the point of his question is certainly something that pretty much is in the minds of everybody. But I think in the case of Kirby, he just doesn't feel like it's fair to the players on our present team with the NIL structure to pay a guy that hasn't played more than guys are on our team, and that we were able to get enough around the country to have one ranked class without having to do that. And but it's getting to be more where you're just not going to get a guy because you're a good recruiter or you got good development or you got good facilities and all that. I mean, money talks, and you got to look at the family structure of so many of these young men, and the families are looking at, hey, there's a chance this guy might not be a pro player, but we can get set for life if he doesn't. So you can't blame him. So that's just the way it is, and it's the way of the NIL is there, and you're seeing in a lot of sports, not just football.
And I'd even push back on some of these players from these states a little bit west of Georgia. They stay in state because Georgia's plucked some of these guys. George Pickens from Alabama, Cedric Van Pran pulling from New Orleans was massive. Nakobe Dean in Mississippi. Yeah, historically, those may have been in-state players, but this is not as much of a regional sport anymore. And so you can go where you want to go.
Yeah.
To that point, I want to mention the 3 guys we spoke to, or the 4 guys we spoke to yesterday. Ernest Green from California. Best offensive, one of the best offensive tackles in the nation. You went and got him there. Ja'Cory Thomas from Orlando, one of the best players in Florida. Julian Humphrey, 5-star defensive defensive back, Texas. And we asked him about going to the transfer portal. Remember, he put his name in for like 48 hours. He said, I was home, and a lot of these guys that live nearby, they get to go home on the weekend or whenever we're released, and they get to go see their families. It's a 12-hour drive for me. And I'm like, and he really sounded homesick, and you could hear it in his voice. And he mentioned some other guys that they all kind of hang out together because he said when our families don't come up or don't come visit us. So Kirby's going international, and we're looking at I say international. He's going he is international with Brett Thorson. But right now, if you want the best offensive tackle, go get me David Sanders out of North Carolina. If I want a guard, an interior guy, go get me Zaire Addison out of Florida. I mean, if you're going to recruit nationally, you're going to be taking, to your point, Dayne, some of the best players in the nation, and sometimes you're not always focusing on the top 10 guys in the state of Georgia. So, but again, Mikel Morris, one of the best. You got him; he's going to kill it for you. You definitely want Justice Terry. You definitely want Elijah Griffin. This year in state is fantastic. You're dying for Juju Lewis. That's not to say that you don't recruit your home state, but sometimes the better player is out of state, and you got to fight for them. And of course, everyone else realizes that, and they come to Georgia with the big bags of cash, like Coach was talking about. They're like, whatever it takes to get Justice Terry, we're going to do it. So,
you think Bear Alexander had a good time last year? Didn't seem like a fun season to me.
Yeah, no matter.
He's laughing all the way to the bank.
How much money? I'll have a crappy season. Yeah.
From D-Rock UGA in 2021, Georgia played Clemson in the season opener on a neutral field. Brandon Streeter was the offensive coordinator at Clemson. Matt Luke, the offensive line coach at Georgia. Fast forward 3 years later, and the teams open against each other on a neutral field. Streeter now at Georgia, Luke at Clemson. Does that have any impact on this upcoming matchup in 2024?
Great question.
Not as much as you would think, but it's certainly some help for sure, because you can – maybe there might be a few players that were on the teams then that are still playing. I know right off the bat, Ratledge was starting in that game, and then he got hurt.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is you can get some philosophy deals from Luke to tell them what, Georgia's philosophy is on offense, and certainly from Brandon about Clemson. But although Clemson's changed styles, we will have a good feel about their offense, because the TCU offensive coordinator that we played against, Riley's brother, is the coordinator now for Clemson. And it's going to be a good opener, a good test. I don't think, in my mind, I don't think Clemson's as good as they were then. And I think Georgia's just as good.
This question from Jonathan Eason on YouTube. Coach Donnan, have you ever eaten a banana and mayo sandwich? I'm eating my banana and mayo sandwich for lunch, and I'm switching it up with a pimento cheese sandwich soon in honor of the Masters.
Yeah, most of the time I put peanut butter on mine with the bananas.
Got to do the Elvis, right?
But I don't know that there's any – but I certainly like them. I don't hit much mayonnaise on mine, but banana and peanut butter is one of my go-tos. And then, of course, pimento cheese. You go down to the Masters, and there's a lot of different kinds. I took my grandson one time, and he was in the 5th or 6th grade. He had 11 egg salad sandwiches down there over the course of 8 hours. And I told him I hope he goes to the bathroom before he ride home. But
did he die?
No, he just swept up on those, but that's got to be close to the Guinness Book of Records. But that's a great experience for anybody that had never done it. It's just, and certainly playing there was the most nervous I've ever been at any time. On the first tee, I mean, I couldn't even breathe, and there weren't maybe 50 people in the whole place that day. But that's just utopia for me.
Did you put it in the fairway on that tee shot?
I was in the area code.
I'm very excited this year because my dad entered the Masters lottery for the first time and got 4 practice round tickets on the Wednesday. So me and my 2 brothers are going with my dad.
Well, that's great.
He's very excited.
That's great.
Went with my wife last year.
They have the you get to watch the
par 3.
Par 3 too.
Question from, where did I see this? This is Greg Hendricks. We mentioned his name, but he wants to know a little bit more about Dylan Fairchild and how he's looking in the spring.
Yeah, Dylan, the first thing comes to mind is just complete strength, massive power, among the strongest guys at Georgia that I can remember, and has really persevered. I mean, has worked hard and played a lot last year and will continue to. Hard to get him out there. I mean, off the field, he's just very consistent, and glad we got him.
What a great problem to have. Dylan Fairchild, Mikel Morris, and Tate Ratledge.
Yeah, and
3 guards for 2 spots. That is.
Had some good ones coming up behind them too. But I think you can roll those guys, and it's good because most offensive lines don't have that situation, and they're going against D linemen that roll. I mean, you see a lot of teams substituting more D linemen to get the fresh bodies in there to rush the passer and everything. But if you can give a guy a blow and let him sit out a series and then come back in there, that really helps your O-line too, without taking away we had McClendon at tackle a couple years ago, and we played Mims in there at tackle, and McClendon go in and guard some. So I think it's really a good way to, if you can have 6 or 7 or even 8 guys in that O-line that doesn't really miss a beat, that really helps you.
We've seen Georgia do that more, Coach. Do you think that even increases as the schedule gets longer and longer by the year with the expanded playoffs? I mean, you need the depth.
Exactly, with the idea that you're going to have a couple more games if you get to the last one. You not only need it for conditioning, but you need it for injuries, because injuries are going to happen. The more times you're out there, the more chance you're going to get them. So it's hard to play a big game with a guy that's just coming in there new. I mean, it gives me some bad memories about, I had to play a guy twice in playoff games because we didn't have any depth, because we had some guys get hurt in the O-line, one at left tackle, one at center. And the one at center didn't get hurt. He got caught smoking weed. But it's just a different mentality of trying to develop that depth. And it's hard to do it when the game's on the line, putting a guy in there knowing that he might not do as good as the other guy, but you got to force yourself to do it.
To me, that's the value of a guy like Xavier Truss coming back, that you feel confident with him in so many spots in that offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, he started at left tackle, right guard, right tackle, and it really helps with Monroe Freeling, who I think is just a outstanding, athletic type guy that can move his feet. It's not overpowering at this point because he's got a big frame, but he's filling it out. But he's improved so much from last spring to this spring. He's going to be a really good tackle for us.
I love it.
And then Calhoun, I mean, I'll say the same thing about him I said about several of these guys. When that guy walks in there, you're saying, hey, this guy's, I mean, he's the real deal looking now. I mean, just not fair to look that good.
Hey, that whole group of freshmen, everyone keeps talking about they are gigantic.
Yeah, they're big. They've lost some weight, but I think it's got to meet reality here. It's going to take a little while for them to simmer a little bit.
But if they come in and they're 6'7", 6'8", one of them was Nair Daniels was 396 down to like 350. At least you were that big. You're not trying to get it done with a 6'2", 6'1", guard or something. So they're loaded. Coach, last thing I wanted to ask you about was the NFL is changing their kickoff rules so that there's actually more kickoffs. And Kirby was asked about it, and he's like, yeah, we talk about stuff like that. And it's become – he mentioned the fact that kickers kick the ball so much further. Punters have so much more hang time and distance that it's really kind of changed it. And the way you really opened my eyes up when we do our watch-along shows in the fall – by the way, we need a couple of sponsors for that. So, folks, if you want to be a sponsor, let us know. The way you emphasize special teams, and it's not like Beamer ball or something like that. It's as a coach, and you've shown us the difference special teams make. Give me your thoughts on making it so that there are more returns in not only the NFL game, but maybe in the college game.
Well, NFL they saw what the XFL did with, for people that don't know exactly, they're lining up the two teams like closer together, and it's down on the 30-yard line, and you kick it, and then you kick it from further back, but the coverage can't start going until the guy's caught the ball.
Right.
And the idea is to put the return back in the game and the excitement of it, but eliminate the high-speed collisions of a guy running 25 or 30 yards. They're already where they would be if they kicked it off. They're already down the field there 5 yards apart. So that's something that'll probably, colleges usually follow the pros. We've never have got to the point where we move the hash marks in, but we have used the clock like the pros, the 2-minute warning like the pros, the easier blocking rules as far as offensive holding. Still got the same antiquated rule of pass interference is only 15 yards, which I think is ridiculous. I think that should be a spot foul. But if you talk to a defensive coach, they think it's a great call. So, but we'll see how it works. But if it gets a lot of success, it certainly gives a lesser team a chance to maybe out-execute you that they wouldn't be able to do playing you 11 on 11. You know, I mean, you get a guy and break a guy out like Cordell Patterson. I see where, you know, he was a great kick returner, and now he'll come back out there. Everybody remembers Devin Hester, all the stuff he did in college and pros. So it'll be interesting to see how the NFL works on that. And then they also eliminated that tackle, which I think that rodeo tackle, you know, where you grab the guy and roll around and then throw him down. It's going to be a penalty, which has really had a lot of injuries on the guy's ankles in particular in the pros. So they've eliminated that too.
See, all for you offensive guys. Y'all get all the breaks.
Hip drop tackle, they call it. Hip. I
mean,
mean,
hip drop tackle. Know that you're a quarterback. You're like, I hate it. I knew it was coming.
I mean, you know, that's true. I mean, I didn't want anybody to hit me. I promise you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people that like contact. That's why they're not playing certain positions. But I mean, I
asked Glenn Schumann what he thinks. I bet he loves it.
I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared, but I wasn't really looking forward to it either.
All right, folks. Got a joke for us, Coach?
No, I really I've just been I've been tied up with getting my oil change this week on my body. You know, you get to be my age, you got to go see all these different doctors for the routine checkups, and they say I got at least 6 more days left. So I really hadn't had a chance to check some of my sources for any, and I only bring out the premium jokes to this group.
That's true.
I got some really bad ones I tell my friends, but I really hadn't researched any, but I got to get back on that. But
we'll do it Donnan After Dark, and you can tell all the dirty jokes. I
don't say any dirty jokes. I mean, there's no advantage if you tell a dirty joke in public that and insults one person. It's not worth it. So I mean, I'm real careful about that.
I mean, Roddy, we could discuss.
If it's all male group, I'll tell them if you don't want to listen to this joke, then go to the bathroom. But I'm gonna tell a dirty joke. So.
Me and Coach could discuss Novak Djokovic dropping Gordon Ivanisevic as his coach. If you'd like,
I will remove you from this show.
He did. I can't believe it. What he did.
See, yeah. He dropped him as his coach. He won, I think, 12 majors with him over the course of about 6 years.
And who's he bringing in?
Don't know yet.
Well, you know,
he just got upset over Indian Wells by a last qualifier. So,
well, you know, some of these people change coaches. It really helps them. Like Sinner changed his coach, and he's doing well. And I don't know, but I'd like to see him retire myself. I don't want to see his ass play anymore.
See, Roddy, we got a great moment out of that, begrudgingly from you.
I'm just going to smoke.
I'd like Nadal to win French Open one more time and go off into the sunset. One of the biggest things I ever saw live was being able to go over there and watch Nadal in a exhibition over there at the Gwinnett Mall, at the Gwinnett Center. It was awesome.
Very true. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. I really appreciate everyone joining us on a Wednesday. I know it's not a normal time. We might have to do the same thing next week if Kirby decides to have his press conference at noon on Tuesday. We don't like going head-to-head against that, but hopefully this time.
I think that's a good move by you. I mean, I wouldn't listen to us if you got a chance.
I would not. Well, I need to be there to ask him those tough questions.
Yeah, I'm sure he looks forward to that.
Yeah. At least he doesn't roll his eyes when I ask him questions. That's the most I can hope.
Well, if they call on you, at least they know you're in the room. So
yeah,
he takes a lot more questions than Biden does. That's for sure.
He does. Well, I will give Kirby Smart credit for this last press conference. It was very, very informative. If you want to know about probably like 10 different guys, and he does. It's not just a short, quick answer. He actually went into great detail on a lot of them. So
that's right.
And here's the thing: if you're at work and you don't want to play, or like you don't have speakers on your computer, or you don't want to play where you're supposed to be working, we have the transcript, everything he said. So go to UGASports.com, look where it says watch or read, and you can read everything he said. It's great reading, so check it out. It's a good press conference, and we'll talk about next week's press conference next week, and we will see you then. Take care.